So Elon Musk is having an absolutely horrific week this week. His stock is crashing, his rockets are exploding, and now people are yelling at him. That's the subject of today's video. And check this out, guys. Better balance his time between Doge, Tesla, and SpaceX. Elon Musk's net worth has dropped more than 100 billion this year, but it could even be more than that, as you got Tesla stock wipeout has hit Elon Musk's net worth by more than 150 billion this year. They may be even fudging the numbers over at Tesla to try to save themselves. This was some headlines out of Canada. Tesla made a suspicious number of rebate requests on the last days of Canadian EV incentives. So what kind of fudging could be possibly going on? Are they possibly cooking the books? When you got headlines like these, it does raise some questions. Canadians buy over 8,000 Teslas ahead of the end to the federal rebate. So you're like, well, why would that be fudging the book? So basically what it is that the deadline for this EV tax credit in Canada was ending, right, this past weekend. And then suddenly there was a couple dealerships that recorded 4,000 sales in, one weekend, which seemed very, very high. And that's why people started to ask questions these things, and they were like, no comment, no comment, no comment. They've had these sort of questions on their accounting before. I've made some videos on this. There was a lawsuit even against Tesla. And on top of that, now people are yelling at Elon Musk in cabinet meetings. This is actually an explosive meeting and description. We're going to go through it to details, because when you see who's fighting and why, it'll all kind of fit in and make sense. So this is what it says. The headline from the New York Times: inside the explosive meeting where Trump officials clashed with Elon Musk, right? Simmering anger at the billionaire's unchecked power. Elon Musk, after coming out of that meeting, he's now trying to get support from his fanboys and fangirls. Basically, Elon Musk is the most insecure billionaire in history, as his wealth is going to be the greatest collapse in history. And he says, do you support Doge reducing government waste and fraud? He's like, please support me, please support me. Because remember, people are yelling at him. And then he's even tweeting out this kind of really odd stuff today. This is just a few hours ago. Starlink is not allowed to operate in South Africa because I'm not black. It's coming from Elon Musk. I don't know what this guy's on all the time. There's a picture of Musk coming out of the, I think this is the cabinet meeting maybe. And let me read the description of it, and you'll see it's actually Marco Rubio was yelling at Musk. It says here, Marco Rubio was incensed, as the description, incensed. Here he was in the cabinet room of the White House, the Secretary of State seated beside the president, and listening to a litany of attacks from the richest man in the world. Wow. So it sounds like Musk was going off on Rubio, I guess. And then Rubio kind of probably started to stand up for himself. Sitting diagonally opposite across the elliptical mahogany table, Elon Musk was letting Mr. Rubio have it, accusing him of failing to slash his staff. Wow. So Musk is basically like, why don't you fire people? You got to fire people, right? And this is trying to get rid of people in the Department of State, which is kind of interesting, because I wonder, why is Musk so adamant about firing people in the Department of State? Is Musk, under orders from Russia or China to do these kind of things? I don't know. You have to ask Musk, but you can see he's like, why don't you fire people, Rubio? Then it says here, you have fired, quote, nobody. Mr. Musk told Mr. Rubio, then scornfully added that perhaps the only person he had fired was a staff member from Mr. Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. So Musk is accusing Rubio of not firing anyone in Department of State, and then saying maybe the only person you fired was someone from my department, from Doge, right? So they're having a clash right here. So this is Rubio versus Musk. And odds are is that Rubio is going to be the one who's going to resign first, regards to Trump's cabinet. It says here, Mr. Rubio had been privately furious with Mr. Musk for weeks, ever since his team effectively shuttered an entire agency that was supposedly under Mr. Rubio's control. And that's referring to the United States Agency for International Development. So basically, the USAID. So basically what it is that, Musk is in charge here and just cutting entire agencies. And you wouldn't like that if you're supposed to be, in charge of that part. It's basically Musk is overstepping his power. Well, it depends how you want to define what Musk's power is. And that's sort of what we're trying to do, because it's interesting. we all know that Musk is in charge, right? But legally, they're trying to pretend like Musk has no position and he's kind of like, off to the side, not that important, right? Because when the lawsuits start coming in, then they pretend like he's not that important. But then, say in private meetings, right, people are like getting really pissed off because he's taking so many actions. So that's sort of what's going on. The control of the private and the public, sort of what we see, and who's really pulling the strings. Also says here, but an extraordinary cabinet meeting in front of the president, Trump, and around 20 others. So a lot of people saw this. Details of which have not been reported before. Mr. Rubio got his grievances off his chest. It sounds like they're really yelling at each other. Mr. Musk was not being truthful, Mr. Rubio said. So Rubio's basically saying Musk is a liar. What about the more than 1,500 State Department officials who took early retirement and buyouts? Didn't they count as layoffs? He asked sarcastically, wow, whether Mr. Musk wanted him to rehire all those people just so he could make a show of firing them again. Okay. Then he laid out his detailed plans for reorganizing the State Department. Wow. So this, yeah, it definitely sounds like there's an argument. That's why I was saying that I think they're yelling at each other. And it went on for some time. When you read reports of this stuff, it says Mr. Musk was unimpressed. Again, this is Musk and Rubio. He told Mr. Rubio that he was, quote, good on TV, with the clear subtext being that he was not good for much else. Throughout all of this, the president sat back in his chair, arms folded, as if he were watching a tennis match. So they're just like, going back and forth, that kind of thing. And if you guys are ever, witnessed like people who are like really, really angry, sometimes you're just like, I don't know if I want to get involved with this kind of thing. Or in Trump's situation, maybe he's just like too tired and too old to mess with this stuff. I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of funny the way to describe it. After the argument dragged on for an uncomfortable time, Mr. Trump finally intervened to defend Mr. Rubio. Okay, so he takes Rubio's side here, as doing, quote, a great job. Mr. Rubio has a lot to deal with. The president said he is very busy. He is always traveling and on TV. He has an agency to run, so everyone just needs to work together. It's bad when even Trump's like, can't we just all get along? He's got to be on TV. We all got to be on TV. Or maybe Trump's just like, I just want to watch Fox News while you guys yelling at each other. And it's actually kind of interesting as well, because I think, from Trump's point of view, now Trump's main focus is, hey, I just don't want to go to prison. I want to be on TV and I want to eat my KFC or McDonald's or whatever. That's kind of Trump's point of view on this stuff. And I want people to love me. But as Musk takes the spotlight, I don't think Trump likes that. I mean, to be perfectly frank, it wouldn't really make sense for Trump to, who likes to be on TV, to let, Musk have the spotlight all of the time. So I think this is going to be, a sticking point, and then Musk again keeps stepping on other people's toes. You got this. Trump puts new limits on Elon Musk. I'm sure Trump's getting all kinds of complaints about Musk. I mean, he sees it all the time. It says here, Trump posted about the meeting on Truth Social after the story posted, promising to hold similar meetings every 2 weeks. It's all these meetings. And it's funny because Musk wants to cut bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, actually, a big part of it is just meeting all the time, which I totally understand. If you guys have a job, you guys know this. It's like meeting all these times about everything. But that's what it is. Quote, this is from Trump. As the secretaries learn about and understand the people working with the various departments, they can very precise as who will remain, who will go. We say the scalpel rather than the hatchet. Because remember, Musk is more like chainsaw, had to do to get rid of everyone, and now sort of it appears that Trump's trying to pull that back a bit by referring to scalpel instead of hatchet. And it says the combination of them meaning the cabinet, Elon, Doge, and other great people will be doing great things at a historic level. And you got these headlines here. Trump says cabinet secretary is not Elon Musk in charge of agency cuts. But there's more. Thursday meeting, which was abruptly scheduled on a Wednesday. So that means they're meeting on Thursday. They scheduled it like a day ahead of time, right? That's how unorganized this is. And this is sort of like gives you the emergency sort of feeling to it, to where people are so complaining about Musk that they're like, okay, we got to have a meeting pronto on this. So they had this meeting, right? Wednesday night. They said, hey, come in Thursday. Everyone does. Was a sign that Mr. Trump was mindful of the growing complaints, right? People complaining against Musk. He tried to offer each side something by praising both Mr. Musk and his cabinet secretaries. At least one, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who had the most intense encounters with related to Musk's team was not present. I see. So Scott Bessent really doesn't like Musk, it sounds like there. The president made clear he still supported the mission of Musk initiative, but now was the time, he said, to be a bit more refined in its approach. Wow. So I guess this was kind of like an intervention meeting to sort of pull back Musk. He also says here, from now on, he said the secretaries would be in charge. The Musk would only advise. Also says Mr. Musk, who wore a suit and tie to Thursday's meeting instead of his usual t-shirt after Mr. Trump publicly ribbed him about his sloppy appearance. Wow. Defending himself by saying that must defend himself. So Trump's just like, oh, why are you dressing so sloppy, wearing t-shirts, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of interesting. Public. And then Musk defends him. This is Musk's defense. Musk defended himself by saying he had 3 companies with market cap of tens of billions of dollars, and that results spoke for themselves. But he was soon clashing with members of cabinet. So Musk's defense is like, hey, I'm a busy guy. I don't have time to wear a tie. And, my companies are worth so much money. I mean, is that really going to fly? And the other thing too is, like, if you're really serious about running your companies, et cetera, and if you're, really, quote, genius, I mean, do you really have enough time in the day to do all of these things? I frankly think not. A lot of people say too, this also just shows that Musk doesn't actually do anything in these companies. He just tweets all day. Because realistically, guys, if say, for example, you work a full-time job, could you do 4 full-time jobs? You guys know this. You know the answer. There's only so much time a day. And I've said this many times about Musk, is he's not Superman, superhuman. His fanboys and fangirls, and just be perfectly frank, the most devoted ones are basically cult members, and they think he's God and walks on water. So they think he's like omniscient and, can do everything. But it's just, he has 14 or how many kids he's got, multiple women. He's got his cult compound in Austin, multiple companies, employees, lawsuits, now people yelling at him. We're witnessing the greatest crash in history with Musk, and it's interesting to see, like, people clashing with him, as you can see. So there was more as well. It says, just moments before the blow up with Mr. Rubio, Mr. Musk, and Transportation Secretary. So there's another person. That's the Duffy was a Fox News person also. Went back and forth between about the state of the Federal Aviation Administration. So this is the FAA, and arguments about what's going on with that. Talking about equipment for tracking airplanes and what kind of fix was needed. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, jumped in to support Mr. Musk. So Lutnick is kind of Trump's, I guess you call him like hype man, or you call it court jester. He always kind of gets people to start, oh, okay, time to clap for Trump. Or, actually Lutnick will say a bunch of nonsense as well on TV and pretend like the tariffs aren't going to hurt you. And he'll flat out lie and act like the tariffs are going to be paid by foreign countries. So yeah, Lutnick is a total Trump lackey. So it's interesting that he's supporting Musk here. Lutnick could be the guy is just like, just sucks up to whoever's rich and tries to, feed off that. Mr. Duffy said the young staff of Mr. Musk's team was trying to lay off air traffic controllers. Wow, because actually Musk was trying to claim on social media posts or whatever that they weren't firing air traffic controllers. I remember this, and they were talking in interviews and stuff like that. So now Duffy, who's again one of Trump's picks, or Musk pick, however you want to say it, Department Transportation Secretary, and then I guess in charge of the FAA, is saying that Musk, why is your young Doge staff people trying to lay off our air traffic controllers? And Duffy's like, what am I supposed to do? Mr. Duffy said, I have multiple plane crashes to deal with now, and your people want me to fire air traffic controllers. Wow. So even, and guys, I just want to be clear on this. So even though a lot of these Trump people are incompetent, they're not qualified, these kind of things, but like say in Duffy's case, it doesn't necessarily, even though, I don't think he's qualified or competent, but it doesn't necessarily mean he wants planes crashing in the sky. I don't think anyone wants that, right? So he's just like, Musk, why are you firing air traffic controllers when we got planes crashing? What am I supposed to do? That's pretty interesting. Yeah, he should do it. He's trying to do his job here. Mr. Musk told Mr. Duffy that his assertion was a lie. Wow. So Musk then calls Duffy a liar. And again, this is a meeting of like 20 some people. Mr. Duffy insisted it was not. He had heard it from them directly. Mr. Musk, asking who had been fired, said, give me their names. Tell me their names. Wow. This is this is a fight. Mr. Duffy said there were not any names because he had stopped them from being fired. Okay. Another point, Mr. Musk insisted that people hired under diversity, equity, and inclusion programs were working in control towers. Okay. I see. So then in Musk's point of view, he wants to fire anyone who Musk considers to be DEI. Mr. Duffy pushed back, and Mr. Musk did not add details, but said during the longer back and forth that Mr. Duffy had his phone number and should call him if he had any issues to raise. Interesting. I wonder. I wonder if people are going to be calling Musk all the time now to complain. Also says the exchange ended with Trump telling Mr. Duffy that he had to hire people from MIT as air traffic controllers. These traffic controllers needed to be, quote, geniuses. Then you got problems with the Secretary of the VA, right? The Veteran Affairs, Doug Collins. So what does Doug Collins say? Doug Collins has been dealing with one of the most politically sensitive challenges of all cabinet secretaries, right? So that's the VA stuff. Mr. Musk's cuts will affect thousands of veterans, a powerful constituency and core part of Trump base. Mr. Collins made the point that they should not wield a blunt instrument and cleave everyone from the VA. Wow. So it's interesting because Collins in public, and I showed you guys this before in a prior video, maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 videos ago, where Collins is like, oh, guys, if you need help at the VA, just give me a call. But chances are you don't really need help. We're just going to fire people. Like in public, basically, Collins was supportive of the cuts, essentially. But it's interesting now in private, because, people are different in public and private for these kind of jobs. He's like, we can't just fire everyone. That's interesting. And I mean, it also shows you, what's the right word to say it, who has backbone and who has not, because there are different types of backbone, right? Because yes, it is backbone to stand up in private, but you should also stand up in public too for what you think is right, not necessarily go along. Also says here, they needed to be strategic about it. Mr. Trump agreed with Mr. Collins, saying they ought to retain smart ones and get rid of bad ones. Wow. We also got this. In response to the request for comment from the New York Times, Carolyn Levitt, so that's their press secretary from the Trump people, this is the quote statement. Quote, as President Trump said, this was a great and productive meeting amongst members of his team to discuss cost-cutting measures and staffing across the federal government. Everyone is working as one team to help President Trump deliver on his promise to make our government more efficient. So I want you to see the difference between like what happens in private, people are yelling at each other, etc., and then the nonsense that they'll say in public. This is a statement from the Department of State. Secretary Rubio considered the meeting an open and productive discussion with a dynamic team that is united in achieving the same goal, quote, making America great again. And it's actually really good when you guys see this stuff, like what happens on the inside, what they end up saying on the outside, how they talk to each other in public. And then you got this as well as like Musk is under a lot of pressure. This was in England, delete your X account. If the bar lets Nazis in, it's a Nazi bar. And effectively, everyone's calling out Musk publicly, and then he just spouts off all sorts of nonsense nonstop. And basically, Musk's sort of fuel to keep his sanity is whatever substances that he's on, and to pump himself up with his fanboys and fangirls, be it bots on Twitter or cult members on Twitter. And I don't know what the percentage is. People have asked me that before. I don't know. It's hard to say. You have to ask Musk. I don't know. And then you have also Musk has a lot of commitments all around the world, be it financial commitments, personal commitments, etc. All of his companies, and it must weigh on the guy. And so I think that's why he sort of has these mental breakdowns from time to time. And it's fascinating to watch because again, it is the largest collapse of wealth in history. So I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on any one of these topics that we talked about, and I'll catch you all in the next video.